What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, rejoined today by my co-host, Alex Wilson. The King has returned. The Giants have a football game to play once again on Sunday. They're 0-2, and yeah, I'm calling this a must-win game. I thought last weekend was must-win as well, to be completely honest, but if we're talking 0-3, we're talking doomsday. So the Giants, they better find a way to win this game on Sunday versus a Cleveland Browns team that, yeah, they're underdogs against, but this team is pretty beatable in my opinion. They have a lot of struggles on the offensive side of the ball, particularly with quarterback Deshaun Watson. He's looked terrible through the first 2 weeks of the season, but their defense is really good, and the Giants' offense has been inconsistent. So that's why the Giants are underdogs. But how do they pull off that underdog win? Get that upset victory? Well, we're going to go ahead and dive into that. Talk about 3 catalysts to winning this Week 3 matchup. The Giants on the road in Cleveland versus the Browns. Now, a couple things come to mind here. Brian Daboll, back against the wall, right? We saw a report yesterday from ESPN, Jordan Rannon, saying, well, the locker room is starting to ask some questions and starting to feel a little bit uneasy, and their confidence is beginning to waver in Brian Daboll. So, looking ahead to this matchup, it's all important for Brian Daboll to find a way to win, not start out the season 0-3 and potentially 0-4 going into a home Thursday night game versus Dallas the following week. Guys, the statistics, they don't look too good. If you look at 0-3 starts to seasons, it's very rare that those teams end up making the playoffs. And if you get to 0-4, your season is pretty much over. I think like one team in the last 20 years has actually made the playoffs. So this is really do or die time for the Giants. They got to win this game. It's going to be a tough one, but there are some ways that they can control this game and come out on the winning side of it. So we're going to go ahead and break all of that down and dive right into it. But first, quick message from our sponsor. Hey, have you heard about NFL All Day? It's this really cool way to collect and own official NFL highlights. You get to collect some of the biggest plays in football, and now they've even added the top rookies from this year's draft. Basically, you buy packs that contain moments, like a big touchdown or a game-changing interception, and each one is unique. They're all tied to the blockchain, so it's like owning a piece of NFL history that's totally yours. Plus, with the new rookie class just added, you could pull a moment from one of the league's rising stars from the start. What's awesome is you can either hold on to them or trade and sell them with other collectors. Some of the rarer moments, especially those from breakout rookies, are exclusive, so it's about collecting what you love. It's also a fun way to stay connected to the future of the sport. And there are always new challenges and events where you can earn even more moments. It really feels like being part of the NFL community. Seriously, now's the perfect time to jump in. Grab a pack, see what you pull. You might land a moment from one of the new rookies or even an iconic play from a superstar. It's a fun way to be a part of the game and build your collection. All right, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? How are you feeling about this game, Giants versus Cleveland? We know it's very important. Gotta win. How do they find a way to get on the winning side?
I'm doing pretty good, as you mentioned, returning from a head cold that has certainly been debilitating, but we move forward and we push on, and Anthony have done a tremendous job filling in as a solo, and we have a really good interview coming out, I think, later today on Friday as well for you guys, so lots of good content still churning through the channel as I was rehabilitating and recuperating from pretty nasty cold, but nonetheless, the Giants versus the Browns on Sunday afternoon. I mean, you kind of said it before. If players are waning in their confidence in Brian Daboll, I can tell you from my perspective, I certainly am waning in my confidence in Brian Daboll. I think, Anthony, you'd probably say the same thing. I don't know if he's the guy anymore. And at one point, he was the coach of the year 2 years ago. I don't think that Brian Daboll has changed that much since then. What I think has happened is we've failed to give him a quarterback that he can really develop. He inherited Daniel Jones. They gave him a contract. It's kind of castrated them from turning the page and finding a young player that they can mold, that they can build around. Right now, Daniel Jones is not the future. And I think even the Daniel Jones truthers have come to agree, like, he's gone after this season. The $19 million they have from cutting him next year, they will probably allocate towards another cornerback or even a defensive lineman. This offensive line is getting better. And in my opinion, the Giants are now building a situation where they can integrate a rookie quarterback that can have a good starting point, like a good offensive line, a couple of key receivers, a decent enough running game. Like, it's a unit they can build off of, that they can grow alongside, and not kind of be like a Drake May where, if they put him in right now, he'd be killed. They'd destroy any chance of him being successful because of the situation the Patriots have at the moment. So right now, the Giants are just trying to make anything positive happen. The Browns are a beatable team, but they have a really good defense. Myles Garrett, this offensive line is much improved. but they're going to test this Giants offensive line. Don't get it twisted. Like, Myles Garrett is going to give Andrew Thomas or Jermaine Illuminor a run for their money, and he's one of the best, if not the best, defensive edge rusher in the game. He's dominant in most respects. He's like their Dexter Lawrence, but he's an edge guy. So it's like, you can't stop him. You can just try to contain him, just try to limit him from being a game breaker. Mason Rudolph tried to swing a helmet at him. It's like everyone's trying different ways to stop Myles Garrett, and nobody can do it successfully. So at this point in time, I kind of feel as though if you are the Giants, I'm expecting a lot of quick hitters. I'm expecting a lot of screens. I'm expecting a lot of really short route concepts. Anthony, you told me earlier that the Browns play zone 53% of the time, 56% of the time. So I expect a lot of motion to determine whether or not they're playing man or zone. And then they're going to have plays drawn up to expose that, right? If it's zone coverage, they're going to want to probably do something specific, try to, attack the weaknesses they do have in that. Lots of too high, obviously, Mel Kiper, something should be banned, but obviously defense is already at a disadvantage enough. And I think if they're playing man coverage, we're going to see a lot of, when they are playing man, we're going to see a lot of Malik Neighbors getting involved again. So, for the most part, I think that they're going to feed Neighbors. They're going to give him screens, do a lot of yards after catch stuff with him. I think that's probably what we're going to see this offense kind of progress here and really try to keep kind of building alongside Neighbors' development. But Anthony, how do you think that they get him involved? Because he is our Saquon Barkley now. He's the guy that the Giants lean on to be the production on this offense and do a lot of damage. So how do you expose this really, really good Cleveland secondary?
It's not going to be easy, and to be completely honest, I'm going to dodge your question in a way because first and foremost, the Giants need to get other players involved. This can't become one of those seasons like 2018 where it was just all Saquon Barkley all the time, or 2014, 15, and 16 where it was just Odell Beckham Jr. all the time. They need to get some of these other players involved and allow them to find themselves in positions where they're getting the ball in space and making plays. And that goes for Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson. Jalen Hyatt has been a ghost, and there's a lot of controversy surrounding him right now. Can he get some reps? Can he get some targets? Devin Singletary looked really good last week. Can we control the clock? Can we run a legitimate rushing attack with Singletary, sit on the football, chew the clock, and win the game? That's totally possible as well. But when you're looking at this Giants offense, you still don't know what you're getting week to week because in the first game of the season, they got blown out. The offense was terrible. They barely moved the ball. They were shut down in the passing game. They were shut down in the rushing game, and they turned the ball over twice. You can't have that happen again. Okay, so they go into week 2. All right, now they're moving the ball quite efficiently through the air and on the ground. They're moving the ball very easily, but they're chewing up clock while they're doing it, and they're barely touching the football because the Washington Commanders are controlling the clock so well. So now what do the Giants do? You're going into week 3. You've seen two completely opposite ends of the spectrum, vastly different offenses. What do you get in week 3 versus a really good Cleveland Browns defense? I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if this is going to be an efficient passing attack like we saw in week 2, or if it's going to be a blown-up, turnover-prone quarterback again like we saw in week 1. Is this going to be a game where it just runs through Malik Neighbors like it was in week 2, or is he just going to touch the ball seldomly, and they're going to try and share the rock and get it around all the playmakers like they did in week 1? I genuinely can't tell because this is a Cleveland team with really good cornerbacks, really good pass rush. It's just a generally good defense. So I think that's kind of why, transitioning back to the main point in the question that you asked, Alex, Neighbors has to get the ball, and he has to get the ball a lot, and he needs to be the guy who runs this offense. But once you make the player, the wide receiver, the guy who touches the ball almost every single play, it becomes very easy for your offense to get one-dimensional, and it becomes very easy for defenses to game plan against you. So in order for Neighbors to continue to find success, some of these other wide receivers need to start imposing their will. They need to start becoming players that you have to keep an eye on. We can't go into this game, have Neighbors running all over the place, running these routes, getting double-teamed, and Slayton, meanwhile, is one-on-one man coverage and just can't get open. We have Wan'Dale Robinson underneath, and they're just sitting on it in a Tampa 2 defense, and he never gets open. That's not acceptable. These guys have to get open, and I think even outside of the equation here, Alex, what is going on with the Giants tight ends? They don't even exist at this point. Daniel Bellinger has been non-existent. Theo Johnson has been targeted a few times, and he's dropped the majority of the passes that have come his way, is what it feels like. The Giants need to get these playmakers involved, and if they're unable to get involved, they need to find a way to get a new playmaker in there, especially at tight end. So I don't know how they shake it up this week against Cleveland. I don't know if they're going to go more rush heavy or more pass heavy. Honestly, I think that they should control the clock, run the football. That will be the way for the New York Giants to find themselves on the winning side of the game, because that eliminates two things. One, the risk of turning the ball over through the air and throwing an interception to a really good secondary. And it also eliminates, secondly, a great pass rush, because you said it. Myles Garrett is an excellent pass rusher, arguably the best in football. If the Giants are running the ball more than they're passing the ball, they take away the risk of throwing an interception. They take away the risk of Myles Garrett absolutely wrecking their game plan from a passing standpoint. So I expect a rush-heavy attack. Actually, that's going to be the second catalyst of this game, Alex. I'm going to declare that and want you to dive more into that, because I know that you're really excited about Motor Singletary. But just to round out my initial point on the question that you asked about Malik Nabers, getting him involved, you get him involved by getting other playmakers involved, so you can get more one-on-one opportunities for Nabers, and he doesn't get double-teamed the whole game. But second catalyst to success, Alex, I do think it's the running game. Like I said, eliminates risks in the passing game, allows you to control the clock. I think if Devin Singletary has a good game, that's one of the ways that the Giants can find themselves winning.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Devin Singletary's been one of the few bright spots on this offense. He forced 10 missed tackles last week. That was the most of any running back, I believe. What we've gotten from him has been competent play. I mean, a lot of people will reference the fumble, and yeah, not a good time fumble. Probably was the difference between winning and losing in the end. But if you eliminate that, obviously you can't really eliminate it, but if we disregard it just for a second, his numbers look really good. I mean, he's doing a lot of good stuff after contact, picking up first downs. He's really hitting the line of scrimmage, and north-south type of guy. He doesn't dance. You guys remember Saquon Barkley dancing in the backfield trying to find a hole. He picks a hole, and he freaking runs straight through like a missile. So I do like that about Devin Singletary. He's very decisive, and when he does decide on something, he commits 100%, and he lowers his shoulder into it. So he picks up a lot of extra yards that way, and he usually picks the right gaps to go through. So I think that if you can establish the ground game, so Anthony, this is what I would say. The Giants need to do what the Washington Commanders just did to us. That's kind of what I foresee that their game plan should be. You're not going to be able to throw on this Browns secondary at the way that you'd probably want to. They are susceptible in some areas, but I don't think we have enough talent to really dominate them through the air. I think that we should be running the football. We should be getting a lot of screens involved. A lot of creativity. Get guys in motion. Scheme guys open, so then give them a chance to run in space. That's kind of how I foresee it. Like, as you said, if you want to get Nabers involved here, they have to get other guys involved to take more pressure off of him. Because if they're just going to lean into Nabers and they're going to play zone on him and they're going to shade his way, like, Aaron Rodgers is saying that the other teams are doing to Garrett Wilson right now, they're going to take him out of the game. And the Giants need to be able to focus on other players too. Like Jalen Hyatt, the lack of usage of him has been interesting. I wonder if he gets more involved in this game. Darius Slayton, I could see him having a couple nice catches. I don't think Emerson's that good. I know, obviously, Denzel Ward's solid, but is Emerson's that good?
Really good. Emerson is a really good cornerback, yeah.
Is he having a really good year this year?
I mean, it's only 2 weeks. I don't think he's playing great through 2 weeks, but last season he was excellent.
Okay, so let's assume that first 2 weeks he's been average. Let's say he's been average the first 2 weeks. Giants don't really have the best receivers in any case, so you're probably looking at difficulties with Darius Slayton struggling to separate anyway. But if they're playing more zone, that does actually lend itself to Darius Slayton because he does have more success in that. I think you were telling me about that the other day. So I wonder if that does give them more opportunities to find him and get him involved in Hyatt too. I wish we had a better tight end situation because they don't really seem to. Daniel Jones doesn't seem to trust Theo Johnson just yet. Like, they don't really use him a lot in the receiving game. It would be nice to have somebody like that right now, like a Darren Waller or anyone that can really run routes and get involved. So I wonder if they try to get him more involved in this one, and Theo Johnson specifically. I always love Wan'Dale Robinson. I think that I always feel as though he's underutilized personally. I think that they should be designing plays for him that are a lot better than they have been. Even get him a couple end arounds. I don't care. Like, just get him involved in the scheme. He's just running cardio all game, every game. Unless the Giants are down by double-digit points like they were against the Vikings, Wan'Dale is basically a ghost. And it pisses me off because I feel as though they do him dirty. Like, on a better team, like on the Rams, he'd be unbelievable. You know what I mean? Like Matthew Stafford would make him look like 10 times the player the Giants do. So it's kind of sad, that the Giants don't maximize a player like that. They should be scheming him the ball a lot more. It would open up a lot more opportunity for Neighbors because you could do a lot of stuff with them in bunch formations and different route concepts. Maybe Wandale does have a big game today. What do you think about that?
I think that Wandale has an opportunity here to try and sit down in some of these zones. Listen, I mentioned, to you 54% of the time, or 53% of the time, rather, that the Cleveland Browns are in zone defense. That's not a lot. They're usually in man coverage. They play the third most man coverage at 43%. Usually teams sit down in man coverage probably 20-30% of the time. So we're talking about a team that's really aggressive in their coverage style. And when you look at that and you look at their lineup, you know that they have Greg Newsome in the slot, and he's going to be matched up against Wandale Robinson a ton. It is going to be a little bit difficult for him to shake free against a talented cornerback, nickel cornerback, in Greg Newsome. So I think that when you're looking at this matchup from a standpoint of the Giants receivers versus the Cleveland Browns cornerbacks, the Browns cornerbacks are going to win that matchup most likely. They have more talent on that side than the Giants do on this side. More proven talent, that is. This game is won on the ground. Devin Singletary, masterclass, wins this game for the Giants. They have to control the clock. They have to make sure that these cornerbacks are not locking up these Giants playmakers and they are not getting interceptions. And also, like I said, when you're running the ball, you're taking away the element of a quick pass rush win for Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is going to move around that defensive line. He's going to play over Andrew Thomas. He's going to play over Jermaine Illuminor. Andrew Thomas doesn't lose many reps. He doesn't give up a ton of pressures. He's going to lose some reps this weekend. He's going to give up some pressures to Myles Garrett because nobody can stop Myles Garrett for an entire game. It's just simply not possible. And when he moves over to the other side of the line, Jermaine Illuminor is going to need help with Myles Garrett. So the way that the Giants mitigate those issues in the passing game is by running the football. So I think Devin Singletary truly is the key to them winning on the offensive side of the ball. But defensively, Alex, this is a Giants team that needs to turn things around with their rush defense. This is, like I said, for the Giants, this game is won on the ground. I think it's the exact same thing for the Cleveland Browns. Their receivers have been playing really poorly. Amari Cooper has looked terrible. Deshaun Watson is not a good quarterback. They win this game by running the football well, keeping the ball out of the hands of the New York Giants, the exact same thing that the Washington Commanders did last week. This Giants defense, though, has not been able to stop anybody on the ground through 2 weeks. Aaron Jones of the Vikings ran all over us. Brian Robinson Jr. of the Commanders ran all over us. The Giants can only win this game if their run defense finds a way to slow down Jerome Ford and the Cleveland Browns rushing attack. Alex, when you're looking at this rush defense, how the hell do they fix this, right? Because Okereke has looked good. Micah McFadden has had good moments. But overall, one way or another, they just keep getting thrashed defensively from a rushing standpoint. I don't know if you're blaming most of that on the personnel, if you're blaming most of that on the coaching and Shane Bowen. I don't know how you look at it, but I imagine you agree with me. Stopping the Cleveland Browns rushing attack is the key on the defensive side of the ball for the Giants to win this game.
I mean, stopping the run's going to be big. Obviously, they don't have, their primary guy in Nick Chubb, but they do have Jerome Ford and, their offensive line. I think Jack Conklin's practiced, and I think most of their guys are probably playing in this one. Maybe they have a couple guys out here and there, but listen, the Giants' defensive line has been exposed. Kayvon Thibodeau was better last week, but they're really just churning through. Like when Dexter Lawrence is off the field, they can run against us at will. They just play hurry-up offense, run the ball. Even when Dexter Lawrence is in the game, they just run to the side that he's not on, and they're having a lot of trouble stopping them. So teams are having success, but I do think that will improve. I think that, like personnel, the Titans had a much better kind of run stopping situation last year with Shane Bowen, but he was known for stopping the run, so I think that he will whip these guys into shape. But when all is said and done, this defense, there's a lot of upside, right? Drew Phillips is playing out of his mind. Deonte Banks had a good start to the season. CB2's been flip-floppy. And then, of course, on at safety with Jason Pinnock, and he's been inconsistent but solid. And then Tyler Nubin's looked pretty good. So, Bobby Okereke and Darius Muasau and, Micah McFadden, I think the defense in itself can be solid. They just have to put it all together. And the Browns are a good, get-right game for a defense because Deshaun Watson is very much problematic in terms of he can't throw the ball well. He's very inaccurate at this point in his career for some reason. He's kind of just lost it. And then he can run the football, but if you just spy on him, have like a McFadden spy, like that could work. Someone that like when he gets out of the pocket just shoots those gaps and gets after him. You can wrap him up. He's going to make mistakes. Like, I would bet on a Deshaun Watson interception in this one. Like, he just sails one and Tyler Nubin's there waiting for it. I could see that kind of happening. But listen, like the Giants, they've been beaten to death by these long drives. They need to get off the field on third downs. They give up 7 third down conversions against a bad Washington offense. You can't sustain that level of incompetence. You know what I mean? Getting off the field on third downs is what defines wins and losses. A lot of times, the Giants struggled mightily to do that. So, that's kind of the situation. Like they're giving up these like 75-yard, like 7-8 minute drives, and it's your offense is sitting on the sideline, like getting freaking cold, and they need to get off the football field. So I think that the emphasis in this game will be getting off the field on third downs, pressure on Deshaun Watson. But Anthony, I know there's a new kind of injury to the mix here, and Brian Burns has a groin injury, new addition. So he's questionable in this game. I think it probably happened today since they just reported it. But how do you think about that? That's definitely one that doesn't make us feel very good.
I hope that he's able to play, even if he's not at 100%, because when you're looking at this matchup for the New York Giants, there's potential here for this pass rush duo of Burns and Thibodeau to finally break free, because they're going up against a banged-up Cleveland Browns offensive line. Jedrick Wills Jr., left tackle. Will he play? Will he not? Of course, they have their tight end, their right tackle in Jack Conklin. Will he play? Will he not? Both of those players are questionable, I believe, and if they end up facing at least one backup offensive tackle, that's a prime opportunity for Burns or Thibodeau to get free and get after the quarterback. So this is one of those games where you want to apply pressure to the quarterback, similarly to how we discussed ahead of Week 1, Alex, where Darnold throughout his career has struggled under pressure. You get him under pressure, he makes mistakes. The Giants actually did that in Week 1. They got him under pressure, and he threw an interception to our rookie linebacker. But they just didn't do anything on the offensive side of the ball to counteract any of that. So this week, if the Giants offense can actually be turnover free and they can apply pressure to another quarterback that struggles under pressure in Deshaun Watson, maybe they force a turnover, maybe they actually capitalize on it this time, and maybe they could find themselves winning this game. So I think pressure is going to play a major role in this game for both teams. Myles Garrett is going to be trying to force Daniel Jones into errant throws and throwing picks. Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns doing the same thing to Deshaun Watson if Brian Burns plays. And I think that Brian Burns has been the far more consistent down-to-down player between those two pass rushers that the Giants have. I think he's been far better against the run, and as a pass rusher, he's really important to this team. And I don't think fans really realize the significance in the drop-off of talent between a Brian Burns and an Azeez Ojulari. Listen, I know that Brian Burns isn't necessarily racking up the stat sheet right now, but that's a lot of that has to do with the scheme that he's playing and the jobs that he's being assigned on a down-to-down basis. He's not necessarily being told to go make a tackle every single play. He's oftentimes being told to move an offensive lineman out of the way to open up a lane for the linebacker or the safety to make a tackle. And those are the nuances of scheming in football. So Brian Burns has been really important to this team, really important to this defense. I hope that he's able to play. If he's not, I will have great concern over the Giants' ability to stop the run in Week 3, which I said is one of the keys to this game. Jerome Ford is a good running back. Obviously, they miss Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is a great player, and hopefully he returns soon from that injury. But in the meantime, Jerome Ford is decent enough to get the job done. And listen, when running backs need breakout games, seems to happen against the New York Giants. So, like Brian Robinson Jr. last week. So, I think that having Brian Burns out there would just be massive to counteract Jerome Ford potential breakout game. And if he's not on the field, then I'm going to be concerned about the Giants' ability to stop the run.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what happens. But end of the day, this Giants team, this is a must-win game, as you said. I mean, 0-3 is brutal. It would be season over. Brian Dable's on the hot seat. Joe Shane's on the hot seat. I mean, if they're not already, we're already hearing like reports and rumors and narratives that they're losing confidence in the locker room. I'm looking at a stat sheet right now, Anthony. That stat makes me want to freaking throw up. I mean, it's quarterback pressures for the first 2 weeks of the season. It's percentage of dropbacks quarterback that the quarterback caused the pressure, and then it's sacks per pressure. Daniel Jones is by far the worst player. He actually, like, they had to extend the chart because he's been so bad, where he has the highest percentage of dropbacks quarterback caused pressure. About 13% of his pressures are because he caused it. The second worst is Bryce Young and Bo Nix, and they're about 9%. So tremendous difference. And then about 20% of his sacks per pressure are on him as well. So he's about middle of the range there. But I mean, he's walking into pressures, man. Like, the worst offensive lineman we have is Daniel Jones because the pass protection is good. So if there's anything I have to say in this game, Daniel Jones has to stand in the pocket and throw under pressure. If he happens to be under pressure, he's got to stand there, be confident, and let it rip. He's tucking the ball. He's dropping his eyes way too early at times, and he's not letting these routes develop all the time because he's been traumatized over years of offensive line play that's been below, like, NFL standards. And it's like, when you have that level of incompetence, it hurts you. You know, we saw Eli Manning at the end of his career with happy feet. Daniel Jones, I mean, he's cooked at this point. Like, he can't stay in the pocket. He has to just drop and run or drop his eyes and try to figure it out and get out of the pocket. He has time back there, man. Like, he can stand there and let the routes get to where they need to be. So I think that's a work in progress. But it's got to be, like, you know, that's kind of plays into, like, playing in the preseason and stuff like that, because now he's trying to get it right in the regular season, and the Giants are facing an 0-3 start if they lose this game, and they have to win this game. Like, he's got to be confident. He's got to put this thing together. He's got to stand in there and not create his own pressures. So at the end of the day, as it always does, it comes down to Daniel Jones freaking scoring touchdowns. And, I mean, believe this or not, Anthony, his over-under for touchdowns scored this week, passing touchdowns, is just 1. Like, they don't even have him at, usually it's plus 1.5. It's just plus 1. Like, they don't even think he's going to score 1 touchdown into the air. So, you know, that's pretty crazy. But I also, like, get it. I understand it. So we'll see what happens. I do think that it really comes down to his confidence and not creating more problems for himself, because he tends to do that sometimes.
Sometimes. It does that a lot of the times. But no, you are right in many ways, but also I will add to that and take some of the blame off of Daniel Jones and just be nice and positive here, because that's what we like to do at Fireside Giants. And I will say that a lot of that is predicated on Brian Daboll scheming together ways to get the ball out of Daniel Jones's hands as soon as possible. Not even give him an opportunity to shoot himself in the foot. Don't give him an opportunity to stand into the pocket and run into pressure. Call some RPOs, call some quick screens, call some short passing concepts where Daniel Jones can take one hitch, fire, boom, first down. You know, all of that kind of stuff. And that's when you get into the nuances of football behind just playing quarterback. What about the offensive coordinator and the head coach calling these plays? How are they scheming together ways to get guys open at the start of the play rather than at the end of the play? So it's all going to tie in together. And honestly, I think that Brian Daboll did an excellent job calling that game plan last week. Wasn't perfect, but it was really good. And he found ways to get Malik Neighbors the football in space and let him create yards after the catch. They got to find a way to do that again this week, especially when they're facing a man coverage heavy team like the Cleveland Browns. Hopefully Neighbors just keeps running those drag routes, those slants, those drive concepts that if you guys watched the film breakdown, you saw there was a lot of drive concepts that were creating a lot of confusion on those linebackers. Wide open space for Malik Neighbors. Keep running that. You know, if Daboll can keep scheming together plays like that, this Giants offense can keep moving. Then it's just on Daniel Jones not to make any massive mistakes, and it's on the defense to just slow down what is a pretty bad Cleveland Browns offense. So I don't know if we're winning this one. I'm not in here to do any score predictions, to be completely honest, but I will say that it is winnable. This is not a great team in Cleveland. This is definitely a winnable game. Giants are underdogs, and they should be, but I do think it's going to be closer than probably a lot of people are going to give it credit for. And I think that the Giants absolutely have a few opportunities here to make some adjustments and come out on the winning side of this thing. And I hope so, because if they don't, it's going to get ugly. It's going to be doomsday on Monday if the New York Giants do not pick up a win on Sunday and are 0-3 heading onto a Thursday night short week game versus the Dallas Cowboys. That's going to be really scary. So hopefully the Giants listen to this episode. Hopefully they make those changes that we suggest and they go ahead and get this win on Sunday afternoon. It'll be a lot of fun to continue to preview that game, break it down, and react to it over the weekend. So make sure you stay tuned to Fireside Giants. Make sure you leave a like on this episode if you enjoyed. Make sure you subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But that'll pretty much do it. We'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.